we know that the things that we share over Tor browser could be related to things we share on other places. So no matter how many measures you may take, no matter how many 7 proxies or 7 VPNs you line up, it's not going to matter if you're actually sharing the same information on, let's say, for example, your Facebook or some other profile where you actually put your real name associated with yourself and your hobbies, all of your interests, and then also have some kind of pseudo-anonymous type of account where maybe you blog out or journal out things that you don't really want in the public. Maybe you don't want it tied directly to your name. And I'm talking about this in the ethical sense. Things like journalists and those who are their sources need to really be mindful of the way that the things that they share over these networks like Tor and I2P could be associated or linked with the things that you share on other things that are directly associated to you, your job, or some other activity in your daily life. Now, we're looking at an article first from Ars Technica, how large language models can unmask pseudo-anonymous users at scale with surprising accuracy. And especially the more you write, the greater a fingerprint accuracy that you are actually offering up to the world, especially in the public sphere. So we can take a look real quick at this article. I have a couple other articles. I've narrowed it down to what I think are the most useful. So burner accounts on social media, very common for people to make a burner account, let's say to just vent or maybe just to express themselves in an artistic way that maybe would be taken out of context in the wrong setting. And so it's completely understandable that people may have these alter egos, these different aliases, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, privacy is, after all, about our basic human dignity. It's about our human autonomy. It is what protects us from having to be someone we are not. It's what allows us to express ourselves freely and openly. So this recent research paper did a variety of different experiments to correlate people across different accounts on different platforms. And more than one social media platform, as it mentions here. Now, the success rate was pretty high, so that's what stylometry is. It's going to be relationships and the way you phrase things. It's going to come, and we're going to go into more of the depth of that, but I wanted to start off with just this article. I know what you posted last year. So, of course, as you would imagine, this could really concern people who have, let's say, have to live in a country or a journalist in an area like in the Middle East or somewhere else where maybe their other work may not be appreciated or they may not get the same welcome party. So same with the sources, especially with journalists. So journalist has to be really careful about what they publish when they're using a source, and it's wise not to write it word for word at times, depending on how sensitive something is. So obviously, this has major implications for online privacy. And it's something I've been wanting to talk about for years now, but, I get caught up in so many other interests that I want to talk about. Let's just take a look at some examples here. So we can see these key parts of writings. Like, you can see what they're struggling with at Stanford here. And then you can also relate that to all other profiles that have Stanford, especially those who have computer science, CS 2241, computer science class 2241 at Stanford, which gives away that it's a computer science major most likely. And then you can see that you may find other profiles that have Stanford and the same year, for instance. So CS class 24, age 22. So if you see the age 22 across different profiles, that narrows it down to those all 22. Now, it's all about the more you share, because the more you share is the more that can be used to link you to other profiles, to other places on the internet and the dark web, such as places like Tor Network, places like I2P. Now, the dark net does not mean illegal. It does not mean unethical. It just means private and secure. That's what darknet means. Going dark comes from that term. The encryption can't be broken. The encryption cannot be read. The text itself is hidden. So it's called going dark, hence darknet. Now, we look at this, we can see this person had a dog named Biscuit. Now you may see the anonymous user over here, which is linked to that. So running things through a large language model can allow them, considering that we're talking about these systems that are scouring the entire internet. They're scraping the entire internet. And especially given that now we have so much development here, especially now looking into this. Now, stylometry is a subject that's been around since at least the year 2000, so this is not a new subject, but with the rise of large language models, it is a much more important thing I felt to talk about today. So we can see that the confidence rate was found to be 94%, considering that this non-user happened to be posting their Stanford Computer Science, a senior in San Francisco. They're from Portland, and their dog's name is Biscuit. They found all that information on the actual name of the person. Jay Chen also had all of those details, linking them together. So it's about minimization of what you share. If you have the need, or whatever it is, your safety when traveling in various areas of the world, that you don't necessarily think it's safe to link all your accounts together for whatever reason. So that's one article we can take a look at. Now we can also take a look over at Whonix, and I also have another great resource I want to share with you today on stylometry that can give you some ideas and some tips. So stylometry in Whonix, which is great documentation for a lot of these subjects. So we can take a look. It's stylometric analysis based on the linguistic style. So even things as simple as how many spaces do you have between each sentence? Some people may use one space, some people may use two spaces. All of these little unique characteristics that can link something together. Everything is a fingerprint. If you think of it in that context, it's really just that everything is a fingerprint that is unique. Everything unique is a fingerprint. Obviously the word "and" is used all the time. That's not much of a fingerprint at all. In fact, it isn't, because every person who speaks English uses the word "and." However, there are certain words that people like to use over and over. You may find yourself doing that. You may even recognize your own handwriting, or better yet, your own computer typing. So say if you type out this paragraph, take a look at some of your paragraphs and compare them to strangers' paragraph. See if you can pick up how much something looks like you. Like, for example, if I am organic in my writing in some cases, I will be able to immediately tell that I wrote something. So it's about keystroke fingerprinting. So there's different types of statistical analysis that can be done, like your keystroke fingerprinting, even your mouse movement. So if I move my mouse in a certain way, and maybe I have an account here, but maybe I also have one under my real name where I'm also recording a video where it shows that. But not only that, we have things like JavaScript that can also map out your mouse movements, can map out the uniqueness of the way you behave on the computer, where maybe you don't have your camera on, but you've practically got a screen record on when you have all of these features enabled in the browser. And that's another reason for the safest mode on things like Tor browser. So we can see a variety of different options that could be selectors in this type of an analysis. So we can see the language preferences, your word frequency, and think of this as well. Now, people in the UK will spell certain words differently than those in the US. And I'm sure if you live in a different country, you know what I mean. You probably have your own little differences between similar countries but not the same. Different types of grammar, different types of slang. All of these things. The character count with whitespace, the average sentence length. So some people have really lengthy sentences, some people have really short ones and concise ones. So this gets a little deep on this, and I don't want to discourage anyone from pursuing their right to privacy. Not at all. I think that this is just yet another thing to come to an understanding of, something just to understand in this age of AI, that if you feel the need to have privacy anywhere, you should be aware of this, but there's also things you can do. So don't get discouraged yet. This is talking as well about some of the defenses you can use. So you can use a local offline AI and you can have it rephrase things for you. And you may do that more than once. You may do that in different ways. You may even type it out in such a way that you know it's not the normal way you type, and then have it rephrase it that way. And then even further from your organic, normal writing flow. And remember, it's also your grammar. It's also the way you use commas. It's the way that you spell things. It's just the information that you're sharing, your pets, anything that could be linked to you or anything in your history could very well link you to your writing. Let's take a look at another article. Now here's a related subject here. WikiLeaks had published a Vault 7 series, and what did they do? Well, some of this comes down to stylometry as well, with attribution, which can basically try to narrow down a programmer, let's say, that developed malware, for instance. Now, if a programmer were to develop malware, they may have a unique way that they format their code. They may have, some people use tabs, a certain number of tabs. Other people will use different number of tabs. All of the ways that you format your editor, all of the different unique things that make you you. This was called Marble, and in this particular case they were trying to protect from obfuscation, or protect from attribution using obfuscation, I should say. And in this case, it even was able to add foreign languages, so that's yet another thing that can be done, at least in the context of this particular leak here, which is useful in our subject today, because Marble was used to hamper forensic investigators and things like that to attribute viruses and tools, says the whistleblowing site at least. And you can see some examples here how it can insert different languages into the code of whatever it is that they were working on. Let's say it could be a 0-day, or more likely something maybe even malicious, which obviously you wouldn't want to be attributed to whatever party it was. Now we can go over to this, which is also directly related, programmer de-anonymization. Now in this scenario, the analyst is interested in determining the identity of an anonymous programmer. Now this is a very common example, which is Satoshi, which we would see people compare the writing style of Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin, on the Bitcoin forums, and try and compare them to other people that claim to be Bitcoin. And a lot of that has been what has narrowed people down to who may be behind Bitcoin. The same can be said in many other things. So let's take a look at this excellent resource. I want to thank Schnur once again for sharing this page with me as I was talking about stylometry in the IRC chat, which you can join. Check out the description, and I have a tutorial video to show you exactly how to join on the I2P network with Postman IRC. Now here is a great article using LLMs, this is key here, using local LLMs to protect yourself from this statistical analysis that is stylometry. So stylometry, everyone has their own writing style, as we just went over. Things that can make you uniquely identifiable, things that maybe make up your slang. You know, if you're a certain generation, you'll have different slang from a different generation. So the year that you are born can be estimated just by the type of slang you use. So be mindful when you use slang, if you are in such a position, such as a journalist traveling in the Middle East, that your more personal writing that maybe isn't favored by whoever you're interviewing, and maybe is on a pseudonymous blog, you might not want that attributed to you. So see this LMAO, laughing, you know, all that. That's just an example here, and you can see that in this example given, these are slang word choices which obviously can be attributed, like, you know, Generation Z will have their own new slang that people who are older may not even know what it means. And then you can tell this person is a profession, has a skill based on the way they talk about protein modeling, things like that. So these little giveaways that are in everyone's everyday writing when it's organic, when it's formulated just straight from your heart. So this is an anonymous that actually is being able to tell that somebody is of French descent, or maybe just learned French or grew up learning French, or maybe came from a country that used to be a French colony. So all of these things are just examples that we can use that can give away your general personality, as it mentions here. Your little quirks as well, the slang, estimated age, as I was talking about, your word choice, your misspellings. Think about it. Are there any words that you commonly misspell? Now, if you misspell it one place, you've probably misspelled it another place if it's something that you have to look up every once in a while, for instance. Words that you maybe don't use as often, but words that you use even more often could be an even bigger giveaway. So this is not to discourage you, it's just to say that if you require safety, you should read up on some of this, or at least work harder at formulating things in a way that is not natural to you, and better yet, use a local LLM. So you could create your own here, your own little model that you could end up actually creating something custom to rephrase the writing. This is a great website. It's called the OPSEC Bible, nihilist.i2p/OPSEC/stylometry if you want to check it out yourself. It's also got a Tor Onion site, so that's another option to read it, but I wanted to pull it up as I was browsing on I2P on it today. So you can see this little trusted environment. This is your personal space that you're running locally on your CPU, GPU, and there's no third-party data collection because you're having it reformulate all of your writing in a local LLM. You can see other examples down here which it shares with you. You can see the way it works on everything this way. So I'm not going to read all of this to you, but this is another good resource, and it's just something to be aware of. I do want to share with you one more resource on this, which I just came across today. This is an interesting page. I have not tested it yet, but maybe you can test it. Let me know what you think. Does it work? I'll test it probably after this, but did want to share it with you. So here's what you would do. You just click on this. I did open it. And then what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to input two different text files. And what that's going to do is allow you to compare the writing. Let's say you have a suspected real name profile that you want to check against an anonymous one. So this is also open source intelligence stuff where if you're an investigator, whatever you do for a living, if you're a private investigator, for instance, you may need to find out if this person who's planning to hurt someone is actually writing about it, and if it's really them. Well, you might want to input your verified profile writings from them on a public blog with their real name, and then input that as file 1, and then maybe the one where you're investigating their activity and you think you found them on the internet, you may want to put that in file 2. And then what you do here is hit analyze, and it's supposed to cross-reference it using AI. So thought this was an important subject to bring up today, and I hope you guys liked the video. Make sure to let me know what you think in the comments. Do you have any tricks? Do you have anything that you would like to share? I would love to read that in the comments. And if you have any other great resources regarding stylometry or even solutions, please do leave a comment. I would love to read it, and let me know what you think about the video, and if you want to see more like this in the future, I'd love to hear it, and I'll be back later with more on how to protect your security and privacy.